My name is Don Vasco. I've been a passionate cook for 20 years, and today I'm going to do a veal stock reduction. It's very easy to do. Why settle for a jarred can of brown gravy when you can have, for literally 60 cents an ounce, a beautiful veal stock reduction? So this is my take on that. I'm setting the oven at 450, and that's 230 Celsius if you want to get technical about it, but it's very easy. Just hit bake, 450, preheat the oven. I like to roast these for about an hour and a half. But I want to remove the bones from the oven and I want to put tomato paste on it. And what that does, when you put the tomato paste on, is it gives the marrow and the sauce a really good flavor. And when you roast things, you bring out the flavor and everything. You know, you buy the one cans, the Mama Leone cans over there, I think they're 69 cents, whatever. You spread that on there. Tomato paste, yummy, yummy. And I want you to put them back in the oven. Now that's going to stay in the oven until the tomato paste gets brown or caramelized. And that releases all the bone marrow and all those flavors in that pan. Our next step is to take mirepoix. Now mirepoix is a French term for celery, carrots, and onions. When preparing your mirepoix, you're going to need about 2 onions for this veal stock. You know, you could just chop through them. I mean, it has to be a rough chop. You don't have to get fancy on the chop. I like to do a nice chunky beefy chop. I have some yellow medallion onions, some parsley, and some carrots. Now, leave the skin on the carrots and the peels on the onions. That's very important because it gives more flavor to it. If you have any leftover other herbs, you must be careful of things like rosemary, peppers. All right, you don't want to put that, they're very overpowering. So you don't want to use things like that. So here I have my mirepoix, and I'm going to take my bones out of the oven. The tomato paste is nice and caramelized and yummy, yummy. The smell. If you had smell-o-vision right now, where are you going to go? Canola oil is pretty good, you know, but olive oil these days have horrible things in it, like hydrogenated oil and stuff. But after you get your bones rubbed with oil, now's the time to add your seasoning. For this recipe, you're going to need about 2 onions, coarsely chopped. Put the onions in there. Skins and all, I say, right? Take some carrots. I'm going to put some carrots in here. Now, this recipe is going to make about 10 servings because it's going to be a demi. I have to reduce it in half. And then I have some chopped up parsley. You know, I sprinkle a little parsley on. You can throw the stems on there, okay? Some peppercorns. Peppercorns, you use white peppercorns. It's just a veal reduction. And then I have some garlic here. I love the purple garlic. I love it. Whole cloves. If you had the paper, throw the paper in there too. Now what you want to do is roast this in the oven until these vegetables get toasted. It brings out more of an aroma. It smells so good. Oh, yeah. I can remember when I was a kid, my grandma used to say, peel the garlic, peel the garlic. You know, I hated peeling garlic because it always stick to my hands. But then she taught me a little trick where you get flour and you put flour on your hands. But anyway, getting back to this, let's get this back in the oven. So, after about an hour and a half of cooking your mirepoix and your bones, you want your mirepoix to get nice and toasted, you know, that nice toasted flavor. So it's ready to come out now. So what we're going to do is pull this out. Remember, always have a dry towel or you'll burn your fingers. And now, as you can see, we have roasted up real nice. Take this off here. Now, the next step is to take the veal bones and the mirepoix, the vegetables, and put them in the stock pot. You want a heavy bottom stock pot. This has to cook for a good 8 to 10 hours. People, professionally in the restaurants, they leave them on overnight. Or another trick is to leave it half off the burner. After roasting our vegetables and our mirepoix and our bones, we're going to take out the veal bones. Don't burn yourself. Oh, that smell. If there was smell-o-vision, I keep selling that smell-o-vision. We make $1 million. But my uncle used to say, if they make a machine that'll take the bones out of chicken cacciatore, I'll be first in line to buy it. So, you got your bones in the pot, and then you want to get your vegetables in there, alright? Nice, nice. Now on the bottom of this pan that we've been roasting, we have this beautiful caramelization. And this is going to give you all your flavor for your veal stock. So what you're going to do is, I like to set it on the stove. Let me set this back here. But first, now we want to top this with water. After you get your bones and vegetables in there, you want to put enough water in here. I like to use filtered water. We put our water in here until we cover up our mirepoix and our roasted bones. Whenever you roast something, you bring out the flavors more. And now's the time to add a couple bay leaves. So I don't put in my bay leaves when I roast my mirepoix and my bones because they tend to burn. And another thing I like to put in, I couldn't find any fresh thyme, so I got regular thyme. And we like to put a pinch of that in. A lot of people don't like to put salt, but here's a little, I like to use sea salt, but we'll put a little salt in. Now, turn this baby on full blast, okay? Full blast. I'll put a cover on it that'll help it come to a boil. You don't want to bring it to a boil too fast because that'll kill all the bone marrow and it'll kill everything. But you want to bring it up. You want to get heat in there fast. Okay, I'm putting the lid on. I want to bring this up to a boil. But you don't want to let it stay at a boil, okay? When you do that, you boil out the flavor. So I put a lid on here just to get it hot, just to get it going. And this way, it'll get hot. It'll bring the temperature up, it'll heat our house because I'm so poor. And let this come to a boil, and then we're going to reduce it to a simmer. So we're going to take it down to low. Now in restaurants, they'll take it and they'll leave it sit overnight. We're not going to do this, so it's good to do this the day before. Okay, get your veal stock ready here, boiled up, so you can sit over and watch TV, do your daily chores, but never leave a stove unattended. So, after this has been on the stove for about 6 to 8 hours, the longer the better, you're going to take it and strain it through a chinois or a cheesecloth. This will take all the particles out, the mirepoix, the bones. You're going to be left with a brown, this beautiful brown sauce. Now you want to ice it down in either an ice bath for 4 hours and then put it in a refrigerator. The next day you're going to get about a 2-inch layer of fat. My grandmother used to use this fat for feeding the birds or even cooking with. But anyway, you want to skim that off. The next thing is put it back on the stove and give it a good tasting. Now that is, if you reduce it by half, that is a true demi-glace. It'll thicken on its own from the bone marrow. If you need it to be a little browner, you can use a little gravy master, but in the field they call that cheating. What's cheating? Come on now, man. You want this to look rich. This gravy should puddle on the plate beautifully. So when you stick a spoon in it, reduced by half, it'll be sticking on the spoon. Okay, that's my trick. That's how I know that it's nice and creamy chocolate. You can adjust the seasoning too after reducing it. After you reduce by half, you intensify the flavors. There's also a thing called infusing flavors, and it's one of my favorite things because this is one of the 5 mother sauces from France. And what I like to do is do, like, if I'm cooking pork, I'll use a Vermont maple syrup. And what I'll do is take my demi, and it's already reduced by half, and I'll put a little maple syrup in a saute pan. I'll deglaze it with some bourbon, and then I'll add it to my stock. Or if you want to infuse rosemary, take some rosemary and put it in. Now, not too much because it's overpowering. So you'll have a rosemary infused demi-glaze. You put the rosemary inside the stock or the demi, and then you let it simmer, and this will take out. Pinoli nuts are, they're awesome. Take some pinoli nuts, put them on a sheet pan, put them in the oven and bring out that nutty flavor with some roasted garlic, and then throw it in a blender, scrape it out and throw it in your demi-glaze. These are ways you can infuse and variate this recipe. So this is, again, is one of the 5 mother sauces. There's bechamel, there's hollandaise, there's tomato. But this is my take on a veal stock reduction. Okay, after I take out the bones and put them in the stock, and it's been simmering, I like to take the pan that we roasted our vegetables and mirepoix in. This pan has so much flavor in it, so you want to deglaze it. Ideally, I like to use a red wine when I'm making a demi. But I'm going to use water in this case. So the easiest way is to put the pan on the stove top, pour about a half a cup of water on, and then turn on the stove top. And this will release the flavors from the pan. And what you want to do is, just take a pair of tongs, and you want to just move things around in here. And if you can see, this is the caramelization. Now that we have our water in here and everything's loose and all that's very nice, we can take our lid off. Be very careful, don't burn yourself. And look at that, pour those juices in there. Oh my. And that's called deglazing. We get that all in there. And we're gonna let this baby go. We got it down to a simmer. In 8 hours, I'm gonna show you the next thing to do. Okay, to strain our stock, what you first would like to do is you want to either use a cheesecloth or a chinois, which is a dome strainer. In this particular case, I'm just going to use this regular old spaghetti strainer. I'm going to take my veal stock that was refrigerated, that you can see the fats congealed, and just dump it through. Now, I made a small amount. Remember, we reduced this by half, so these flavors are very, very intense. After straining your sauce, we're going to put this there. We're going to put it on the oven, and we're going to put it on a low simmering heat. Now this is the part that's interesting. The sauce is already thick because of the bone marrow. Now's the time if you want to infuse it with flavors. Nowadays everything is gluten-free, so this is a total gluten-free sauce. It's very rich, and for your next dinner party, it's a beautiful thing to serve with any meat. You can do a pork reduction. You can do a beef reduction. Just follow the steps that I showed you and have fun with it like I do.